So 1 year ago, I made a video titled Predicting Every Club Senior Football Championship in 2022. I made 37 predictions in total. I predicted every Club Senior Football Championship. I predicted the Provincial Club Football Championships, and I even predicted who would win the All-Ireland. Of those 37 predictions, I got 21 correct, and I even correctly predicted that Kilmuckle Crokes would win the All-Ireland Club Senior Football Championship. I made this video in August of last year, just before a lot of club football championships were about to start, and some of them had already started at that point. I just made the video for the crack, for a bit of a laugh, for a bit of fun, mainly just to see, like, you know, how many predictions am I going to get right. And obviously with the fact that it includes every club football championship in the one video, which you rarely ever see on YouTube, and to be fair, club championships tend to get neglected a lot of the time across the country. Mainstream media doesn't cover them, and I thought, why not give exposure to every club championship in the country in the one video. One thing I didn't do, however, was predict every club senior hurling championship. I didn't get around to that last year, mainly because a lot of hurling championships had already started, and I suppose I am more of a football man, first of all, than a hurling man, and second of all, obviously a lot of the championships have been halfway through. Some of them are nearly coming close to being finishing and everything else. And look, that's the same this year, but we're still going to do it anyway. We're still going to predict every club senior hurling championship, just for the laugh, just for the crack, just for a bit of fun. Consider these quick picks is what I would say. Do not take these way too seriously. Like, this is just quick picks for every senior club hurling championship. We'll be looking at all the senior hurling championships that will be playing in the senior club hurling championship, if that makes sense. So there's 8 senior hurling championships in Leinster. Those winners go on to the Leinster Club Senior Hurling Championship. We won't be looking at, you know, counties. For example, we won't be looking at like the Longford Hurling Championship or the Fermanagh Hurling Championship or the Sligo Hurling Championship. I think that video would go on too long. In all honesty, I don't think there would be enough interest for that, and I also think as well there is a lot of waffling on this video, and there is always waffling. I think waffling is great, and I love waffles, to be fair.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So we'll be predicting the Galway Senior Hurling Championships, the 8 counties in Leinster, 3 in Ulster, and 5 championships in Munster. We'll also be predicting who will win each provincial club championship and who will win the All-Ireland, which will obviously be taking place in January 2024. Obviously, a lot of you lads like who are from some of these select counties will certainly know a lot more than me. And obviously how I'm basing these predictions is I've gone back and done research. I'm basing it off what I've seen from previous years. And obviously it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of crack. And let me know what you think will happen as I predict them. Right then, obviously there is no Connacht Club Senior Hurling Championship. Obviously with the fact that Galway are, I suppose, the only real team that plays senior hurling. I know Sligo and Mayo have come on leaps and bounds in hurling. Obviously the winners from Galway usually just go straight through to the semi-final. So we'll predict the Galway Club Senior Hurling Championship. Also, by the way, if by chance I happen to get a few things wrong in this video, obviously bear in mind some of these championships have already started. Sometimes it can be quite hard to find information on every club hurling championship. Things change very, very quickly. So St. Thomas are obviously the top dogs here in Galway at the moment. They've won it in the last couple of seasons. They haven't always dominated. I mean, they've often been taken to replays, and to be fair, obviously last year they lost to Dunloy in the All-Ireland semi-final. So with St. Thomas, they're not like, I suppose it's not like Ballygunner down in Waterford or Slotneil up in Derry. Like, St. Thomas haven't always dominated Galway, and there have been times where Clarenbridge and Loughrea have looked fairly close, and to be fair, those two have usually been the 2 closest challengers. St. Thomas do have a lot of great players though. Conor Cooney's obviously in there. Clarenbridge have the likes of Evan Nyland and TJ Brennan. While for Loughrea, they have some very good club players in the likes of Mark McManus and Neil Keary. Be interesting to see how Portumna get on with the fact that Joe Canning is obviously still playing for them. It'd be great to see Joe Canning sort of get, you know, another moment in the sunshine and possibly lead his club to the county championship. But it's a tough one, this. Like, as I said, St. Thomas have been fairly dominant. Like, they've won the last 3 or 4 in a row. They've been very dominant in the Galway Senior Hurling Championship. But I just look at it and I've got a sneaky feeling about Clarenbridge. They've a very young side. As I said, they've got the likes of Evan Nyland in there. I think there's a lot of great players coming through that club at the minute. They were very close to beating St. Thomas a couple of seasons ago. And I just have a sneaky feeling St. Thomas might end up losing their dominance in the Galway Hurling Championship this year. So I'm going to go for Clarenbridge. So we'll have a look at some of the club championships down in Munster, and we'll start with the Cork Senior Club Hurling Championship. So St. Finbarrs won this competition last year comfortably. beating Blackrock in the final. There really is no dominant force in the Cork Club Hurling Championship. They've had 4 different teams who've won it in the last 4 seasons. That's been St Finbarrs, Middleton, Blackrock and Emo Killy. Glen Rovers have lost 3 finals in a row from 2019 to 2021. They obviously have Patrick Horgan, who is obviously one of the most notable Cork hurlers who plays for them. Interesting enough, St Finbarrs, as far as I know, won't have Ben Cunningham available to them, with the fact that he's obviously a part of the Ireland rugby setup now. It's a very hard one to predict, this one, because it's had a lot of different winners. Glen Rovers were the side that have consistently getting to a final, and I remember them being in an All-Ireland Club semi-final like 3-4 years ago as well. They have a very, very good side, but it does feel like the likes of Finbarrs, the likes of Blackrock, the likes of Middleton, who obviously have Conor Lahan as well, have probably just got the jump on them. And when you look at some of the players that are in the bars, the likes of Brian Hayes, I fancy the Bars to make it back-to-back titles, and there's definitely something brewing in the Bars at the minute. You look at them obviously in football, they won that 2 seasons ago, got to the final last year, certainly be one of the favourites this year as well. But I'm going to go for St Finbarrs. I think Glen Rovers could have a great year as well, but I'm going to go for St Finbarrs to win the Cork Senior Hurling Championship. In Clare, it's usually been between Ballyea and Six Mile Bridge. Both of those 2 sides have been the dominant forces since 2014. To be honest with you, you just can't look past Ballyea. I mean, when you've got a player like Tony Kelly, who, even when he hasn't often played for Ballyea, they've still gone on to win this championship. They've got the likes of Niall Daisy, Aaron Griffin, a lot of very, very good players in this Ballyea side. I suppose the annoying thing for them is that when they've got to Munster, it's just not gone well at all. But in Clare, they're bang up for it, and I think they are the dominant force in Clare at the minute. There doesn't seem to be another side, from what I've seen, that can really challenge them or push them. Like, there's a few other sides knocking on the door, but I just think Ballyea will be far too strong, so I'll go with them to win the Clare Hurling Championship. The Limerick Hurling Championship is hugely interesting, and obviously there was a game that took place the other, it's already started. We seen Doon beat Patrickswell just a couple of days ago, which was certainly a big shock when you look at some of the players that are available to Patrickswell. And honestly, the Limerick Hurling Championship is definitely one of the more tougher ones to call, because like, you would look at Napirshig and some of the players that they have. They won it last year. Peter Casey, David Dempsey in there. They've obviously been a bit of a dominant force in Limerick throughout the years as well. They are the current champions and have been in 5 of the last 6 finals, winning 4 of them, which really shows you how dominant they have been in Limerick. But like, you look at a side like Patrickswell, and to be honest, it kind of reminds me of Ballymunkickum's here in Dublin, where you've kind of got like the spine of a series. Limerick are obviously one of the greatest hurling teams of all time, and the spine of that team all play for Patrickswell. Dermot Burns, Aaron Glan, Keane Lynch. Like, you're talking, Hurler of the Year players. Do you know what I mean? And Keane Lynch has won Hurler of the Year. Dermot Burns has won Hurler of the Year. Aaron Glan could win it again this year. It's kind of mental to think that they haven't been more successful with those players available to them. But I think the reason why they haven't been is, again, the same reason Ballymunkickum's haven't always been as successful here in Dublin. And that's because these are players who put so much into the county throughout the year. They come back to the club, a different way of playing sometimes, different systems, playing with different players. Takes a while to integrate yourself back in. And the fluidity just isn't there, as you would see with those players when they're playing with the county. So that's probably why Patrickswell have had a few bumps in the road, and that's probably why they're not going to win the Limerick Hurling Championship this year, unfortunately. You've got Kilmallock and Doon in there as well. Obviously, Doon got a huge win the last day. I did hear Davy Fitz is involved with Doon. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong there, but I did hear that. It's a tough one, this. Like, to be honest with you, I actually did have Patrickswell down to win it, but haven't seen them lost to Doon. I don't know if they can turn it around now in the group stages, so it's a tough one, to be honest with you. Do I go with Napirshig, who've been the dominant force? I kind of want to mix it up and go for someone else. I'm going to go for Doon. Do you know, I'm gonna go a little bit left field. Maybe it's a bit of recency bias there because I just seen them beat Patrickswell. But I'm going to go for them. I'm going to go for them to win. Just looking at it there, they've never won it before and they've got to 4 finals. So do you know what? Anyone from Doon, today is your lucky day, because I think you're going to do it. There you go. Doon are going to win the Limerick Hurling Championship. Looking at Tipperary in a similar fashion to Cork, like, this is absolutely wide open in my opinion, and it's really, really hard to predict. Like, if you look at the last 6 Tipperary Senior Hurling Championships. There's been 6 different winners in the last 6 years since the obviously era of dominance from Thurles Sarsfields. Kilruane McDonough's, Killadangan, Thurles Sarsfields, Lockmore Castellini, Boris Lee have all been there and done it. It's such a hard one to call. Like, Killadangan have often sort of been the front runners in my opinion. They've had so many good players obviously in the club and a young team, and they've been getting to semi-finals and finals, but a lot of the time they just can't seem to quite get over the line. And from listening to other Tipperary team podcasts, a lot of them would often say that Killadangan are the side who could go on and dominate and become a real force in Tipperary. They just can't quite seem to make that breakthrough. Lockmore Castellini, we know the fight and spirit of that team with the McGraths and everything else. Obviously they do play football as well, so that sometimes can be a hindrance for Tipperary. It is a tough one, but you know what? Boris Lee, I don't know, like, other than that year in, 2019, 2020, where they won it, they haven't really come anywhere close since. Kilruane McDonough's have been very close at times as well. Obviously won it last year. Do you know, I'm going to go for Killadangan to make the breakthrough again, and I think they'll do it. The Waterford Hurling Championship is one of the more straightforward ones. Ballygunner are bidding to win their 10th Waterford Senior Hurling Championship in a row. And actually, when you look through some of the finals, I'll throw them on screen just now. Like, they have absolutely dominated this competition. Like, they have absolutely walked it at the best of times, cruised to victory. It hasn't even been a stroll in a lot of these finals. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure they've had their moments in the early parts of championships and they've had bumps in the road, but they have been so dominant. And it was mad last year, I think, when, was it Desi Hutchinson or one of the Ballygunner players were saying that they were wrote off, before the final of the Waterford Championship, which was mental. I don't think anyone wrote them off, which was crazy. It's a hard one to know. Like, you've got Mount Sion and Austin Gleeson. Could he deliver something there? But again, I don't think there's enough. And to be honest with you, I think outside of Ballygunner, there doesn't really seem to be many clubs who are able to challenge them by the looks of things consistently. So yeah, I think Ballygunner all day long. Not only are they the favourites for the Waterford Hurling Championship, they're going to be one of the strongest teams again. Obviously won the All-Ireland 2 years ago, beaten in the semi-finals last year. They're going to be thereabouts again this year. Moving on to Leinster then, and we'll look at Carlow, and I'll be honest with you, my knowledge of the Carlow Hurling Championship is few and far between. Don't get me wrong, my knowledge in a lot of these championships, I don't know everything about all of these championships, obviously. I only know bits and what I've seen and researched and everything else. Carlow, very hard to find out what the crack is here, I will be honest. But what I do know is that it's either been St Mullins or Mount Leinster Rangers who won this championship since Nave Brid won it in 2008. Marty Kavanagh's obviously back fully fit now, and we've seen the influence he had with Carlow in the Joe McDonagh Cup this year. He's back with St Mullins. With Mount Leinster Rangers, you've got Chris and John Nolan in there as well. So looking at it statistically, you would say it has to be one of either St Mullins or Mount Leinster Rangers, and I think to predict someone else would be an extremely bold prediction. Right, so just as I was editing this video, the Carlow final has happened. Mount Leinster Rangers have won the Carlow Hurling Championship, and thankfully enough, actually, I did predict them to win it. I'm not just saying that now because of the video or anything like that. There are a few other championships, unfortunately, that are coming close to their stage that I got wrong, but Mount Leinster Rangers, I did actually predict them to win the Carlow Championship, so happy days. We'll move on to the Dublin Senior Hurling Championship, and finally a championship that I feel like I'm quite qualified to fully talk about and not be checking my notes or checking, did I say that team right, did I get that right, do you know what I mean? Because Dublin, it is my own county, it is where I'm from. Obviously this championship is well underway at this stage right now. I've watched a couple of games already, and some very interesting results. St Vincent's looking very good. Diarmuid Connolly back with St Vincent's, playing hurling with St Vincent's, which is really interesting to see. And that pass he played for one of the forwards the other week was absolutely extraordinary, wasn't it? But probably will be between 3-4 sides. You would say Kilmacud, Crokes, Nafina, Coola or Ballyboden. The usual suspects, really, the super clubs in Dublin. These clubs are usually quite, these clubs are good at football as well, aren't they? So it's going to be between one of them four, in my opinion. Crokes are obviously bidding to win the double. 3 doubles in a row, which is mental. Obviously in football and hurling as well. It's weird, in hurling they are a bit different to football. They have a very young side, and I think last year they started quite slow and then they really kicked into gear Alex Considine, has obviously established himself with Dublin a lot more so now. Dara Purcell is a very good player as well. Fergal Whiteley's in there. They've got a lot of great options, Kilmacud Crokes, a lot of very good hurlers. But I do look at Na Fianna, and I think Na Fianna need to capitalise on these group of players that they have. Your Donald Burks, Andrew Jameson Murphy, I've been singing his praises for the last couple of seasons. I think he should be in the Dublin side. Got a lot of great players in the Fianna. You've got a lot of young players, and a lot of players I think should be knocking on the door of the Dublin panel in the next couple of years. Coola, obviously have your usual suspects. Con O'Callaghan. Will he play both football and hurling this year? The argument is from watching him with Dublin that he has slowed down in the last couple of years. He's had injury issues, so will he be as active with Coola in both football and hurling? That's going to be an interesting one. But you would say Coola's dominance from winning this championship on a regular basis and obviously winning a couple of All-Irelands a couple of years ago, like those days have unfortunately gone away from a Coola perspective, and they do look a lot more beatable now. I think St. Vincent's actually beat them in the group stages a couple of weeks back as well. In terms of dark horses, like you've got Luke and Sarsfields who tend to produce the odd couple of results here and there. St. Vincent's obviously with Jerry McConnelly in their ranks do have a chance, but I'm going to go for Na Fianna to break the duck. I think Crokes have a very good side, young team, strong side, but I think Na Fianna, obviously having been in the last two finals, I think they're going to get over the line this year. I think they're going to have it within them. Donald Burke is going to lead them to glory, Conor Burke as well. So I think Na Fianna are going to win the Dublin Hurling Championship. The Kildare Hurling Championship, it's nice all day long. Obviously, Kildare didn't have a representative in the All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship in a lot of previous years. Last year was one of the first years that they did have a side representing them in the All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship, mainly because they won the intermediate All-Ireland Club Championship a couple of seasons previous. And Naas do have some very good players. Jack Sheridan, Brian Byrne. They're a bit of a super club in Kildare at the minute, aren't they? They're winning the football as well. They do seem to be the dominant force, and you remember they beat Shinrone in Leinster last season as well, the Offaly champions, and Kildare are definitely on the up. I know they got relegated from the Joe McDonagh, but Kildare Hurling is definitely on the up, and I think, like, obviously the knowledge isn't really much here, but you look at the last couple of finals Naas have been in, and they've absolutely walked it. And obviously, hurling isn't a stronghold in Kildare. It's obviously on the up, but it's definitely not a stronghold. Football is the stronghold, so I'll go with Naas to win this. The Kilkenny Hurling Championship is very interesting indeed because, look, Ballyhale are the dominant force, the reigning All-Ireland champions. Very hard to look past them. They've won the last 5 in a row. You do have some other sides who've been knocking on the door. James Stephens have kind of been coming close here and there, and they do have Brian Cody involved with them. And what a story it would be if he could be the man to break this stranglehold of Ballyhale Shamrocks. You do have Dixborough and O'Loughlin Gales who've been close as well, but you just can't look past Ballyhale. Like, you look at the players that are on their team, TJ Reid, Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen. They have a wealth of players and a wealth of options, and they are a monstrous club. Colin Fennelly, like, they have so many good players. It's absolutely mental. They basically have an inter-county side, and I often think that because Kilkenny, like I have a sneaky feeling because Kilkenny lost the All-Ireland Hurling Championship final against Limerick in 2022, that sort of gave the determination to the likes of TJ Reid, to the likes of Owen Cody, to at least get out there and win an All-Ireland, go out there and do it with your club. And it's sort of, they're channeling that hurt into the club championship, and I think it'll be the same again. It's very hard to look past them. Could James Stephens do it? Could they produce a miracle? It's not impossible, but I'm going to go for Ballyhale. Looking at the Laois Hurling Championship, Clough Balacolla are bidding to win 4 in a row. They have the likes of Stephen Picky-Mar, Willie Dunphy's in there as well. But you know what? Like with the video I made last year in the club Senior Football Championship predictions, I will do one of those in the next couple of days as well. I tend to throw in just mad predictions every now and again, just for the crack, just for the laugh. And this club might already be gone. They might already be knocked out of this championship. I honestly don't know. Boris in Ossory, Kilcotton, I think they're going to win it. It sounds absolutely mental, but they've got PJ Scully in there and Adrian Dunphy, and I just think they're going to do it. It's a bizarre prediction, but why not? In Offaly, St Ryan's were dominant for 3 years, but that stranglehold was broken by Shinrone, who won it for the very first time last year, and it was incredible scenes in the clubhouse in Shinrone in Offaly. They've got the likes of Jason and Killian Sampson. They've got a couple of young players who obviously broke into the Offaly county side as well. You've got Burr and Coolderry, who will not be too far away, no doubt about it. St Ryan's will certainly be in the mix. But I'm going to go for Shinrone to win back-to-back. They broke the duck last year, got a good young couple of players. I think they would have been disappointed with that defeat to Naas in the Leinster Championship last year. So I think they're going to want to right that wrong this year. And I think they're going to win the Offaly Hurling Championship. In Westmeath, Castletown, Gagan were the ones who won it last year. Raharney and Clonkill have been in the mix as well. I'm going to go for Clonkill to win it, just for the crack really. And in Wexford then, you have, this championship's a bit mental. You've got 7 different winners in the last 7 years. The Wexford Championship is always one of the most entertaining. They always usually have the final on TG Cahir. It's always one of the finals that everyone's excited for. It just tends to throw up mad shocks, surprises, teams coming from absolutely nowhere. Rapparees winning a couple of years ago. Fern St Aidan's winning it last year. Remember Shell Malaire's doing it in 2020 as well. They seem to have some mad moments in the Wexford Hurling Championship, and they seem to be getting a lot right in the Wexford Club Hurling Championship. In fairness, it will be between St Martin's, Naveana, Fern St Aidan's and Rapparees. I think they will be the 4 front runners. St Martin's were close to winning it last year and have usually been one of the sort of sides who've always been knocking on the door in Wexford, in fairness. But I'm going to go for Rapparees. Okay, so I'm just going to intercept again here. So the Wexford final is actually this weekend. Kind of crazy how quick some of these championships are finishing up, and I really wish they would have waited a bit more time just so I could have done this video in peace without having to, I suppose, look back and everything else. But here we go. As you'll see on screen, the final is going to be between Naveana and Oilgate Glenbrine. I went with Rapparees to win it, I will be honest. That was my prediction, so if you hear me mention them at a later stage in the video, that's because I did predict them originally in the original recording. As you'll see, they got beat in the quarterfinals by Naveana. Do you know what? Oilgate Glenbrine haven't won this in God knows how long, so I'm going to go with them to win it. And moving on to Ulster, the Ulster Club Hurling Championship, we have Antrim first of all. Dunloy have won it the last 4 seasons in a row with the likes of Keelan Malloy, Nigel Elliott, Paul Shields all doing the business. Paul Shields obviously a veteran of Dunloy at this stage, and I actually have no idea if he'll be involved again this year, but the man's an absolute warrior, so I'm sure he will be, to be fair. And Dunloy were in the final last year. They got to the All-Ireland final. They beat the Galway champion St Thomas. It was a remarkable story for Dunloy, and they obviously won the Ulster Championship as well, beating Slaughtneil. So I think they're a very strong club, Dunloy, and I think they will be there again this year, and I think they will win it again this year. You do have Rory O'Cushendall. They've been the only side other Dunloy to win it since 2016. And Lockhill Shamrocks and O'Donovan Rossa have been close in the last couple of years. But I'm going to go for Dunloy to get the job done. In Derry, it has to be Slaughtneil. They're bidding for their 11th championship in a row. They obviously, you'd be familiar with the likes of Shane McGuigan, Chrissy McCaig and Brendan Rogers from the Derry County football team. But what you mightn't realise is those 3 lads are also very good hurlers for their club, as well as footballers, obviously. They do have a lot of other good players in there as well, and Slaughtneil really is an absolute stranglehold in Derry in terms of both football and hurling. Obviously, Watergrahamsglen have turned the tide in the last couple of seasons in football, but in hurling, Slaughtneil have been an absolute dominant force. As I said, they're bidding to win 11 in a row, and actually when you look at the list of finals that they have been in the last couple of seasons, they've won it very convincingly. So yeah, it would be absolute madness to go with anyone else here. Portaferry are the current champions, and not since 1956 has a team other than Portaferry, Ballycran or Ballygalget won this championship. So it's been one of them 3 since 1956. So, you know, I think it would be crazy not to go with anyone else other than these 3. So I'll go for Ballycran to win it. I'm going to be honest, I know absolutely nothing about the Down Championship, but Ballycran, to be fair, from looking at finals and looking through match reports and everything else, Ballycran and Portaferry have had some battles in the last couple of seasons. It's gone replays, it's gone one way, it's gone the other. So I'm going to say this year, Ballycran get the job done. So it's time then to predict the club provincial hurling championships then. So we'll start with Ulster, fresh in the memory obviously. I've gone with Ballycran to win the Down Championship. I've gone with Slaughtneil to win Derry and Dunloy to win Antrim. I'm going to go for Slaughtneil to do it. I know that's maybe a bit harsh on Dunloy considering what they achieved last year. But I think like Slaughtneil were dominant in Ulster for so long, and I fancy them to turn it around. I don't think they're going to win the football championship in Derry, so I think it's going to open up more time for them. And I think, look, the only worry is maybe your McGuigans, your McCaigs mightn't be as involved because of how involved they are with the county side and the fact that those lads have played so much football all year. But I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to get over the line and get revenge on Dunloy. I can't see Ballycran winning it. It's been a long time since the downside won the Ulster Club Hurling Championship, so I'm going to go for Slaughtneil to get over the line. So according to my predictions in Munster then, you'd have Doon of Limerick, you'd have Ballyea of Clare, Ballygunner of Waterford, you would have Killadangan of Tipperary and St Finbarrs of Cork. Obviously we have no idea which way the draw is going to go and everything else. We haven't got that information available to us just yet, so I'll just pick one of the 5. I think Ballygunner are just far too strong, aren't they? And like you look at how comfortably they won Munster last year, they are just far too strong. Like, don't get me wrong, Lockmore Castleiney pushed them close, I think 2 seasons ago, but I think they're just too strong. They've too many great players, and Desi Hutchinson, Patrick Fitzgerald looks very good obviously as well. They have a wealth of players in their team. Neil Montgomery, like they are so strong from 1 to 15. And I just can't see anyone stopping them, to be honest with you, in Munster. So I'm going to go with Ballygunner to win it. In terms of who could be close, I mean, I think Doon, like to get through Limerick would be a huge achievement. So I can't see them doing that in Munster. Killadangan might be very close in Tipperary, to be fair. But I'm going to go Ballygunner. I think they're way too strong. So in Leinster, you'd have Ballyhale Shamrocks of Kilkenny, Nafina of Dublin, Naas of Kildare, Shinrone of Offaly, Clonkill of Westmeath, Mount Leinster Rangers of Carlow, Boris in Ossory, Kilcotton of Laois, and Rapparees of Wexford. So these are obviously my picks to come through their county championships in Leinster. So look, Ballyhale Shamrocks I think will win that. But look, I think the Dublin Club Championships champions will be the closest to them, and I think Nafina will be the closest to Ballyhale. It'd be interesting to see, like, if Nafina do come through Dublin, how they would fare. There would obviously be a huge amount of celebrations, I'm sure, winning the Dublin Championship. The pressure would be off them in Leinster, to be fair. They wouldn't really be expected to do too much, and that could potentially suit them, considering there is actually quite a bit of pressure on them in Dublin to deliver this year. It's going to be a tough one. But I think Ballyhale are just too strong. Can't see anyone else. I think Naas could maybe be a bit of a surprise, but again, I don't see them winning. I can't see anyone else really coming close. So yeah, I think Ballyhale will get the job done and win the Leinster Championship. And obviously there is no Connacht Club Hurling Championship, so Clarenbridge, my first prediction in this video, they've obviously gone through already into the semi-finals. So according to my semi-finals, Clarenbridge of Galway, Slaughtneil of Derry, Ballyhale Shamrocks of Kilkenny, and Ballygunner of Waterford. I went back and looked at a couple of semi-finals, and I do believe it will be Leinster against Ulster this year, and it will be Munster Connacht. So I could be wrong on that, but that would throw up Ballyhale versus Slaughtneil and Ballygunner versus Clarenbridge. I'm going to go for the easy options. I'm going to go for Ballyhale and Ballygunner to come through there. I can't see Slaughtneil. I could see Slaughtneil troubling Ballyhale, most definitely. They've done it in the past. Clarenbridge, obviously young side, be a big achievement for them to get through Galway. Galway teams do tend to struggle in the All-Ireland series, to be fair. I think the fact they don't have a provincial championship does harm them. So yeah, it would set up a final of Ballyhale and Ballygunner. I suppose these are the two dominant forces at the minute. There's no doubt about that. Obviously in the semi-final last year, the final 2 years ago. Ballygunner obviously winning the final 2 seasons ago. Ballyhale winning the semi-finals last year. Interesting enough, I don't think Ballygunner have ever played their best hurling against Ballyhale. I think last year they were quite poor. I think 2 years ago they got out of jail obviously with that late goal that won it in the dying couple of minutes, or literally the last puck of the ball. So it's such a tough one, but I'm gonna go for Ballygunner. I think having missed out not winning it last year, having won it 2 years ago, I also think as well when it comes to these club championships, you do also have to look at how things are looking in the county as well. And I often think a county that isn't performing as well, where things aren't going as well, where they aren't playing as much games, it means players are fresher in club championship. It means players are hungrier. I think that's why Slot Neal were doing a lot better in the Derry football and hurling championships when the county wasn't doing as well, because those players were so occupied with their clubs. And I think that's the same with Ballygunner and Waterford right now. Waterford county side isn't doing too well. Obviously haven't got out on Munster in the last 2 seasons, and I think Ballygunner are flourishing because of that. So I think Ballygunner are going to get the job done. I think it'll be an absolute rip-roaring game. Could be extra time, could be a replay, but I'm going to go with Ballygunner to win the 2024 All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship. Sounds a bit mental predicting that now, but I am a bit of a mental person. So anyway, they are my predictions for the All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship. Obviously, a bit of crack. I know some of these championships have already started, and maybe a lot of points in this video will be corrected and everything else, and that's completely fair. I also don't know when I'll upload this as well. Yeah, do bear that in mind. Bear in mind, it is just a bit fun. It is a bit laugh. Don't take it too seriously if you do get offended. To be fair, last year in the football championship, I made 37 predictions. I got 21 of them correct. Adamant Kilmacud Crokes would win the football championship from day one, and they did do it. And I do think Ballygunner will get the job done. We'll wait and see what happens. We will do one of these videos for football as well. Obviously, football, there's a lot more to cover. There's a lot more senior championships. There's a kind of a bit more going on there, so that'll be a much more detailed video, and that'll be out in the next couple of days as well. So if you enjoy the content, hit the like button and subscribe. Let me know, are you excited for club championships this year? Do you want me to cover them on this channel? Sometimes club content on this channel can be hit and miss. Sometimes you can do well, sometimes you can do very poorly. So I'm curious to know what people actually want to see. Do they want to see reactions? Do they want to see vlogs? What do they want to see, basically? My name's Aaron. Leave a like, subscribe. Speak to you soon.